What if the success you're chasing isn't slipping away because of lack of talent, but because of the habits you repeat every day? What if motivation alone has never been the answer, but the hidden patterns shaping your life have? And what if the smallest choices you make daily quietly sculpt the future you'll either enjoy or regret? You keep chasing change, but nothing sticks, because your habits have it. Success isn't built on motivation, it's built on repetition. If you wake up repeating the same actions, you'll keep living the same life. But the moment you take control of your daily patterns, everything begins to shift. Your future is hidden in your routine. When you shift your habits with intention, you unlock a version of yourself you've never met before. Changing small daily habits has the power to transform your mindset, your direction, and ultimately your life. You become what you repeatedly do, not the sum of your intentions, but the sum of your actions. Life isn't shaped by one or two big decisions. It's built on the quiet, invisible habits that sculpt your destiny. A person doesn't suddenly wake up successful. Success is carved through consistent thoughts, words, and behaviors, repeated day after day. The reason many fail to see this truth is because habits disguise themselves as routine. You stop noticing the very patterns shaping your outcomes. You wake up late, procrastinate, speak words of doubt, then wonder why success seems to belong to someone else. It isn't fate, and it isn't luck. It's your pattern, a habit rehearsed into permanence. So how do you turn the wheel? You start by observing. Begin your mornings with intention. Choose action over excuse. Choose focus over noise. Choose to build, refine, and grow. Replace just one small habit. Do it every day, not once in a while. Let it become your new default, and watch how everything else begins to change. Imagine this. You rise before the sun. You speak words of power, not complaint. You write your goals, not once, but every single day. How long before the world begins to bend in your favor? Not long, because your habits are writing your story, even when you're not paying attention. So ask yourself, what have you been rehearsing lately? Fear or faith? Delay or discipline? Whatever you practice consistently becomes permanent. Choose wisely. Small disciplines build great fortunes. Greatness is never born in a single moment. It is carved, chiseled, and refined in silence. A man becomes powerful not by dreaming of power, but by repeating small acts of discipline until they become second nature. Discipline is not punishment. It is the gatekeeper of freedom. It separates those who live with purpose from those who drift by accident. You may wonder, why bother with the small things? Because the small things are the big things in disguise. The way you rise, the way you speak to yourself, the way you work when no one is watching. These habits decide the size of your results. Begin by mastering the first hour of your day. Not when life gets busy, but before it begins. Make your bed with precision. Read something that sharpens the mind. Train your body. Speak your goals aloud. These aren't chores, they're declarations. Each act says, I am in command. Imagine a man who keeps his word to himself, who never lets fatigue speak louder than purpose. Each morning, he does what others avoid. Who will succeed? The one who works in bursts, or the one who builds brick by brick like a mason? Now ask yourself, what small discipline have you been avoiding? That is your next door to power. Walk through it. Thoughts become habits, and habits shape fate. Your thinking is never neutral. It is a forge. Every repeated thought hardens into belief, and every belief, if left unchecked, becomes habit. Most men never rise because they never change the way they think. They cling to doubts, fears, and small visions, then wonder why life offers nothing greater. But consider this. Your mind is not meant to drift, it is meant to be driven. You can fill it with thoughts that build you, or thoughts that bind you. The choice is always yours, though few make it deliberately. You shift your destiny when you shift your dominant thoughts. Write them, speak them, think them, until they drive out the poison of doubt. Say to yourself, I am capable, I am committed, I am becoming. Not once, but constantly, until the voice of weakness fades and strength feels natural. Picture building a mansion. Would you lay bricks of fear and doubt, or bricks of faith, vision, and courage? Your thoughts are the mortar of your future. Handle them with care. What are you thinking when no one is watching? That is your true direction. Change it, and everything follows. Success is not born in occasional effort. It does not arrive like thunder. It whispers, repeated through daily ritual. The men who build empires, fortunes, and legacies never rely on moods or fleeting bursts of energy. They build rituals, sacred patterns of action that create predictable excellence. You've seen men who start strong, sprint ahead, and then stumble. They rely on willpower. But willpower fades. Ritual remains. It carries you through fatigue, boredom, and setbacks until it becomes part of who you are. Why is ritual so powerful? Because it doesn't wait for your permission. Once formed, it works automatically. It erases the gap between intention and execution. Ritual turns dreams into duties, and duties into reality. You build it by anchoring actions to something sacred: your mornings, your evenings, your meals. Attach an action to a moment, repeat it, respect it, protect it, and let no excuse break it. Picture this. A man rises before the town stirs. He lights a candle, writes down 10 goals, visualizes them completed. He trains his body with effort and speaks his sentence of power every day without fail. Over time, will he not rise above the masses? So what do you repeat without fail? That is your ritual. Is it building you or breaking you? Purpose fuels habits that endure. A man who knows why he wakes each morning doesn't need motivation. He embodies it. He doesn't shrink before pain, failure, or fatigue because his soul burns brighter than any obstacle. Purpose is more than a goal. It is the engine behind every action, the invisible fire that transforms discipline from burden into devotion. Without it, even the best habits wither. A man can push himself to run for days, wake early for a week, grind for a month. But without purpose, he will stop because there is no reason to continue. Now look around you. Notice how most people live, moving mechanically, drifting from one habit to the next, copying routines they barely understand, chasing results they don't even want. They scroll endlessly through other people's lives, hoping something will finally click in their own. They wake without clarity and work without direction. They chase temporary pleasure because they lack something permanent. They do not fail because they are weak. They fail because they are unanchored. They lack purpose, and purpose cannot be inherited. No one can hand it to you. No book can give it. No mentor can define it for you. You must choose it. You must write it. You must look deep within and declare, "This is why I am here." And once you know, you must return to it daily, morning after morning, night after night. Not just as a reminder, but as a ritual. The man who lives this way becomes unshakable. Because when your habits are tied to your purpose, they transform. They no longer feel like duties. They become devotions. Distraction itself begins to feel like betrayal to your destiny. You no longer need tricks to wake up early. Your vision pulls you from sleep before the sun. You no longer wrestle with consistency. Your identity demands it. So how do you find this purpose? You silence the noise. You sit in stillness. You ask, what was I made to contribute? Then you test it with action. Write down your goals, not for approval, but for alignment. Watch which ones stir your spirit. Which ones move you forward without pressure. That is your clue. Purpose is always felt before it is fully understood. And once you sense it, you must build habits that honor it. Picture a man digging for gold. Many dig out of curiosity, but one digs because he knows the treasure is there. He's seen it in his dreams. He feels it in his bones. His hands do not tire because his heart is convinced. That's the difference, conviction. So ask yourself, what are your habits serving? Are they tied to something real, or are they drifting without direction? If you don't know, the time to discover it is now. Once your actions connect to your mission, everything else begins to align. Pain transforms into fuel. Time becomes sacred. Your life starts to move with power, and your environment begins to reflect your standards. Look closely at the space around you, not casually, but with the eyes of someone ready to rise. Notice the room you wake up in, the desk where you work, the items you see each day, and the voices of the people who surround you. These are not accidents. They are reflections, quiet, constant mirrors of the standards you hold within. A man doesn't need to boast about his values. His surroundings speak for him. His room, his tools, his schedule, his circle, all of it whispers or shouts his true identity. Yet how many live in chaos and confusion, pretending it carries no weight? They wake up late, surrounded by clutter. Their homes are neglected, their plans disorganized. They tolerate drama, laziness, and distraction from those closest to them, then wonder why their lives feel heavy, stuck, and without momentum. But life is always speaking. The results you see are never a mystery. They are simply a mirror. When you allow disorder in your environment, you send a quiet signal to your mind. This is acceptable. This is what I deserve. That signal begins shaping your entire attitude. But when you demand more, when you clean with discipline, organize with intention, and protect your peace from toxic influence, you rise, not only on the outside but within. You reinforce an identity of excellence. You begin to feel worthy of more because you live as someone who deserves more. So how do you raise your standard? Start by confronting your environment with honesty. Audit your space. Touch everything and ask yourself, does this serve the person I'm becoming? If the answer is no, let it go, without guilt, without delay. It could be an old item, a sloppy habit, or even a person whose energy pulls you down. You're not discarding. You're making space for what truly belongs. Build an environment that aligns with your vision. Create a daily flow that honors your time. Surround yourself with people who sharpen your mind and challenge your weaknesses, not those who feed your excuses. This isn't about perfection, it's about intention. Think of a warrior preparing for battle. Would he walk into the storm with a dull blade, broken armor, or a camp in disarray? Of course not. He treats his environment as a reflection of his future. Every tool in place. Every ally chosen for strength, loyalty, and clarity. That's how you must begin to live. Not by accident, but by design. So ask yourself with real courage, what have I allowed to remain that weakens me? It could be an object, a habit, a person, or even a mindset. Success is not only shaped by what you do, but also by where you do it and with whom. The person who builds his environment with care creates a mind and a life that cannot be easily shaken. Repetition rewires the mind. It does not bend to brute force or yield to one burst of willpower. It responds to rhythm, to the steady beat of consistency. You cannot leap into a new life in one dramatic moment. The mind is not a switch to be flipped. It is a living field that must be cultivated with patience and rhythm. You must till the soil of your thoughts day after day until they begin to grow into something new, and then nurture them until they bloom. This is where most people fall short. They begin with fire, but no fuel. They start a habit, try a new mindset, speak a new affirmation, and when results don't appear instantly, they quit. It didn't work, they say, as if change were a vending machine. But the mind does not respond to intensity. It responds to repetition. The brain isn't seeking what is powerful. The brain isn't searching for what is powerful. It's searching for what feels familiar. And repetition creates that familiarity, slowly, steadily, unshakably. Think of the first time you told yourself something bold, like, I am strong, or I will change. At first, it felt awkward, maybe even false. Doubt argued back. Old beliefs mocked you. But that wasn't failure. It was simply your old programming still in control. You don't overcome it by debating. You overcome it by outnumbering it. One truth, repeated 1,000 times, can silence a lie you've believed for 20 years. Transformation doesn't come from winning an argument in your head. It comes from rewriting the script. That's why habits matter, not for their intensity, but for their rhythm. Wake up at the same time each day, not because it's difficult, but because it anchors you. Review your goals each morning, not because you forgot them, but because repetition imprints them deep within your soul. Speak your affirmations, not as magic spells, but as daily reminders of who you are becoming. Visualize the life you want, not to escape reality, but to program it into your nervous system until it feels familiar. The goal is to make these truths so natural, so ingrained, that you can't imagine life without them. Picture a river carving its way through solid rock. The river does not rush. It doesn't explode. It cuts through stone not with force, but with consistency. That is what you must become, steady, daily, unwavering. Not dramatic, but devoted. Victory comes not through power, but through rhythm. The rhythm of a person who has chosen what to believe and repeats it until it becomes second nature. So, the next time you feel stuck, discouraged, or impatient with your progress, don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask a better question. Have I repeated the right things enough times? If the answer is no, the solution is simple. Don't chase another secret. Don't run after a new method. Return to the rhythm. Speak it again. Train again. Visualize again. Wake up again. Until the new you isn't something you're forcing to build. It's simply who you are. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Stop starting over. A person who always restarts never truly arrives. His life becomes a cycle, bursts of energy cut short by waves of distraction. He feels inspired, takes the first few steps, but the moment it becomes hard, inconvenient, or dull, he stops. Then he searches for something new to begin, a new plan, a new system, a new goal. Mistaking motion for progress and activity for direction. And so, he spins in place, not forward. You may think you lack discipline, that if only you had more willpower you would follow through. But often, that isn't the real issue. The deeper truth is a lack of commitment. Not to the dream itself, but to the process. You plant the seed, but walk away the moment the soil doesn't give you instant fruit. Remember, every oak tree began as a buried seed, unseen, ignored, slowly breaking through the ground. That takes patience. That takes presence. So, what if this time you didn't abandon the path? What if you resisted the urge to change direction just because it felt hard or slow? What if instead of reaching for a new goal, you nurtured the one you've already started? There is power in staying the course. There is strength in consistency. And yes, there is magic too. Real, lasting magic is found in pushing through the invisible middle, the part no one sees. It's the stage where nothing exciting happens, where progress looks like nothing more than repetition, routine, and silence. Yet this is the forge where true character is made. Most people never reach this point, not because they can't, but because they don't. They quit too soon. They refuse to let the process shape them. They believe success comes from the spark, when in reality, it is built in the grind, in the quiet, often thankless hours of persistence. The one who becomes great isn't always the most gifted. More often, he's simply the most committed. So how do you stop quitting? You shut the door on quitting altogether. You stop treating your habits like hobbies. You stop showing up only when it feels good. Instead, you make it a vow, a sacred promise to yourself. You do it when you're tired, when it's boring, when no one applauds. You do it not for the reward, but because this is who you are now. Your identity is no longer tied to beginnings. It's tied to finishing. Picture a bridge, strong at one end, but left incomplete, stretching out beautifully only to stop midair, useless. That's what so many lives look like. Grand beginnings, flashy starts, but no destination ever reached. So ask yourself, what does your bridge look like? Are you the one laying stone after stone, day after day, rain or shine, until you reach the other side? Or are you the one building in circles, never arriving anywhere? Next time you feel the pull to chase something new, pause. Ask yourself, did you finish what you started, or are you running from the hard part again? The middle is meant to test you. It separates dreamers from builders, tourists from travelers. You can start 100 things and remain in the same place, or you can finish just one and cross into a life you've never known. Don't start over. Stay. Lay the next stone. The other side is waiting. Emotion follows motion. Yet many have been taught the opposite, that you must feel inspired before acting, feel motivated before beginning, feel ready before committing. But that's a lie, and a dangerous one. Emotion does not lead, it follows. It is not the driver of your life, only the passenger. If you wait for it to steer you, your dreams will sit idle and rot in the garage. The fastest way to change how you feel is to change what you do. Action reshapes mindset. Movement creates energy, not the other way around. Do you think the men who built empires, led nations, survived wars, or wrote masterpieces felt ready every morning? No, they moved anyway. They laced their boots, picked up the pen, gripped the sword, before their minds gave them permission. It's in that gap between resistance and action where true power is born. The man who waits to feel right before doing what is right will never lead a powerful life. He becomes a slave to his mood, telling himself, I'll start tomorrow. I'll begin when I'm in the zone. I'll train when I feel strong. I'll lead when I feel confident. But that man is not in control. His emotions pull the strings, and nothing ever takes root. The disciplined man understands a greater law. Mood is a servant, never a master. He does not wait for feelings to align. He acts, and his feelings fall in line. This is the difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck. Greatness is never owned by the emotional. It is earned by the committed. So how do you use this? You build rituals that exist outside of emotion. You design mornings, routines, and decisions that are already pre-committed. No thinking, No hesitation, just doing. You get out of bed before your mind invents excuses. You walk before your brain lists reasons not to. You start writing before the perfect idea arrives. You begin building while your confidence is still catching up, because motion is the antidote to doubt. Every time you act without waiting for permission from your emotions, you prove who is truly in charge. Think of a fire. You want warmth, light, and comfort, but instead of striking the match, you just sit and dream about the blaze. You imagine how good it will feel, yet you never crouch down to ignite the spark. And so, you stay cold, full of potential but empty of progress. Why? Because you waited for the feeling before making the move. But warmth always follows the flame. It's not just fire, it's fitness, focus, faith. It's the book you haven't written, the business you haven't started, the apology you haven't made, the weight you haven't lost, the habit you haven't kept. The life you haven't lived isn't missing because you can't achieve it. It's waiting because you're still hoping to feel like it. But life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards the man who moves anyway, the one who takes steps through the fog, before clarity, before certainty, before comfort. You don't wait for momentum, you create it. You don't plead with your emotions, you train them to follow. And once they learn that you act no matter what, they begin to align. The mood shifts, the inspiration comes, not at the beginning, but after. So ask yourself honestly, what have you been delaying because you didn't feel ready? What project, habit, or responsibility have you postponed, waiting for the perfect moment? Stop waiting. Get up, start, do the thing. Not because you feel inspired, but because you promised yourself you would. Let your body move first, and let your emotions fall in line. That's how you build power. That's how you take command. That's how you finally move. Motion is your medicine. Take the first dose. Your words also sculpt your reality. You speak your world into existence, whether you realize it or not. Every phrase whispered when no one is around, every muttered complaint under your breath, every quiet label you attach to yourself. These are the bricks. And with each one, you're building either a foundation of strength or a prison of limitation. Most men never notice it happening. They speak carelessly, unaware their tongue is shaping the very borders of their life. A man says, "I'm not good with money," then wonders why wealth never arrives. He mutters, "I can't focus," and watches his attention slip away year after year. He jokes that he's lazy, undisciplined, unlucky, not the type to succeed. He laughs, but his subconscious treats every word as law. What you repeat becomes a script, and what's rehearsed long enough gets performed. You don't rise above the story you tell yourself, you grow into it. It's easy to blame circumstances or call it being honest. But honesty isn't just naming what's real, it's choosing what to reinforce. Your words don't merely describe your world, they design it. Words aren't decoration, they're direction. They steer your energy, your decisions, your posture. The man who says, "I always figure it out," behaves differently from the man who says, "Things never go my way." One expects movement, the other resistance. Which do you think he gets? Tragically, many curse their path without knowing it, starting the day complaining about how tired they are. They tell friends how stuck they feel, narrating life with defeat, limitation, sarcasm, and passivity. Then wonder why motivation fades, why nothing changes. Success can't bloom in poisoned soil. You can't speak weakness all day and still walk in strength. You can't rehearse failure and perform victory. So how do you change? Listen to yourself carefully. Track the labels you use. Notice your tone when you speak about your work, your body, your mind, your future. Do you speak as the man you are becoming, or as the man you're trying to escape? It takes discipline to break that habit, but it's necessary. Every sentence repeated becomes a belief. Every belief repeated becomes a habit. And every habit, repeated long enough, becomes identity. Start small. Replace self-deprecating jokes with declarations of growth. Stop calling yourself broke, lazy, or not a morning person. Even if it feels false at first, speak what you want to be true. Say, "I'm getting stronger." Say, "I'm focused." Say, "I'm building something great." Not because it's visible yet, but because your words are laying the blueprint. You're not reporting reality, you're creating it. Picture a sculptor standing before raw marble. The final form isn't visible, but he holds the vision. Each strike of the chisel is small, deliberate, and over time the figure emerges. Your words work the same way. Every daily phrase, every quiet affirmation, every internal dialogue is a tool in your hand. You may not see the statue yet, but it's being formed with each sentence. And here's the secret. The times you least believe your words are the times they matter most. Anyone can speak power when life is easy. But when circumstances contradict your words, that's when they begin to reshape you. Say, I am disciplined when you're tempted to break. Say, I am capable when life feels heavy. This isn't delusion, it's design. Words aren't reflections of the past. They are commands to the future. Ask yourself with brutal honesty, what have you been saying about yourself lately? Not in front of others, but in the mirror, in your own mind. Are those words building your strength or burying it? Do they lift you toward the man you are meant to become, or chain you to the one you're trying to leave behind? The mouth is not only for communication, it's for creation. Use it wisely, because the world you speak is the world you'll step into. And remember, your evenings shape your mornings. What you do before closing your eyes holds the secret to how strong, clear, and focused you'll be when you open them. People often say success begins with early alarms, strict routines, cold showers, and morning hustle. But that's only half the truth. The deeper truth is that a powerful morning starts the night before. The quality of your rest, the direction of your thoughts, the state of your soul before sleep. These don't just shape your night, they shape your next self. You don't wake up with strength by accident. You prepare for it. You don't stumble into clarity. You design it the night before. Yet many waste their evenings, collapsing into bed not with peace, but with panic. Their minds race with guilt, regret, or cluttered tasks. They drift into sleep the same way they drift through life, without direction. And then they wake up sluggish, reactive, expecting clarity to greet them like coffee on the table. But no fire rises from chaos. No clarity grows from noise. Enter rest like a storm, and don't expect to rise like a king. A wise man knows the evening is not an escape from discipline. It is part of it. It is the final chapter of the day's command. He does not let his mind wander when the sun sets. He sharpens it. He doesn't stumble into sleep. He enters it with intention. His night becomes a ritual of review, realignment, and renewal. He prepares his inner world for true restoration. He gives his mind permission to rest, not confusion to dwell in. So how does he do it? He takes inventory. He reflects on the day honestly, not with harsh judgment. He notices what he did well, not just where he fell short. He acknowledges effort, growth, and progress, no matter how small. Then he plans. He writes down tomorrow's aim so his brain doesn't carry the weight of remembering through the night. He closes open loops, gives his thoughts closure, and then turns inward. He reads lines of wisdom, not headlines. He fills his mind with truth, not tension. He speaks words aloud, not to impress others, but to program his own spirit. I am strong. I am growing. I am ready. He doesn't say them because he already feels it, but because he chooses it. The words you fall asleep with often become the first ones your soul hears in the morning. What you whisper before sleep becomes the rhythm of how you rise. Now imagine two men going to bed at the same time. One lies in the dark, eyes wide, replaying arguments, failures, and stress. His body is still, but his mind is loud. The other lights a candle, opens a notebook, and writes 3 things he's grateful for. He sketches his key aim for tomorrow. He reads a page of wisdom. Then he closes his eyes, not out of exhaustion, but out of completion. One man escapes the day, the other brings it to a close. Who do you think wakes with more clarity, more strength, more readiness to conquer the morning? It's not the one who needed rest the most, but the one who prepared for it best. This is what separates the reactive from the powerful. The reactive man lets the day lead him, even into the night. The powerful man, however, guides his day all the way to its end. He knows that while mornings can be unpredictable, filled with interruptions and chaos, he can always control how the previous day closes. And that discipline, repeated night after night, becomes an edge few ever gain. So ask yourself before your head touches the pillow, did I guide my day to the end, or simply let it fade until I had no energy left? Did I close the chapter with clarity, or let it dissolve into confusion? The answer shows not only in how you wake, but in the spirit you carry. Make your evenings a ritual of mastery, not neglect. Let your final act each night bring you back to yourself. because every new chapter begins with the night before. Sleep not only to rest, but to rise stronger. And beware the loop of excuses. Excuses are elegant lies. They wear the mask of logic, sounding responsible, even wise. But make no mistake, they are chains. Each time you say, "I'm too tired, I don't have time," or "I'll do it tomorrow," you tighten those chains. Slowly, silently, you bind yourself to a smaller life. Excuses never arrive announcing weakness. They whisper softly, wrapped in reason and comfort, in stories you've told yourself for years. But beneath it all lies one truth. Excuses are the language of the undisciplined. The tragedy is most people don't even realize they're speaking that language. They think they're being honest, that they're explaining, but in reality, they're stalling. They believe they're defending their limits, but what they're really defending is their prison. The moment you begin justifying an action, you're not delaying. You're accepting mediocrity as identity. The real issue isn't that you lack time, talent, or energy. It isn't even that your obstacles are greater than others. The real issue is that you've believed your excuses. You've repeated them so often that they feel like facts. You don't question them anymore. You wear them like badges. "I'm not a morning person. I've always struggled with discipline. I'm too old to start now." But these aren't truths. They're mental habits, reflexes your mind has built to shield you from discomfort and risk. Growth is painful, and without asking your permission, your brain builds defenses. Excuses are those defenses. They guard your comfort, but they kill your momentum. And every time you choose one, you take another step away from the person you were meant to become. So how do you break this cycle? You expose it. Shine light into the corners of your mind where excuses hide. Stop letting them speak unchallenged. The moment you hear yourself say, "I don't feel like it," interrupt it. Speak over it. Declare, "But I will do it anyway." When the thought comes, "I'm too tired," answer it with, "Then I'll do it tired." When you hear, "I'll start tomorrow," respond with, "Tomorrow is the enemy. I start now." The mind must be trained to obey command, not emotion. You don't need to feel like doing it. You only need to do it. Progress is measured by action, not mood. The man who waits until he feels ready will waste his life waiting. But the man who acts regardless of emotion becomes unstoppable. Each step taken against resistance teaches the mind a new rule. You work for me now. Think of a general in war. His soldiers face cold, mud, fear, and fatigue. If he allowed retreat every time conditions grew harsh, the war would be lost before the first battle. That's how most people live. They abandon their mission at the first sign of discomfort. But not you, not anymore. You are not fighting for convenience. You are fighting for your future. You are not here to protect comfort, but to build character. And character is forged every time you silence an excuse and choose action. Every time you replace fear with courage, delay with movement, and hesitation with now. Make a vow today, not a wish, not a hope, but a vow. No more excuses. Not spoken, not whispered, not even aloud in your private thoughts. If one rises, crush it with command. Replace it with action. Prove to yourself, moment by moment, that discipline is stronger than doubt. You are not here to justify mediocrity. You are here to rise above it. The man you want to become is already waiting. But he can only be reached through courage, decision, and relentless forward motion. So ask yourself honestly, what have you been excusing? What goal? What habit? What higher standard have you postponed with reasons that sound clever but kill progress? Today, you bury those reasons. Today, you become the man who doesn't wait to feel ready. He acts. He doesn't wait for perfect conditions. He doesn't justify delays. He acts. He moves. He becomes. Because when excuses are gone, so are your limitations. And in that space, you finally rise. The reason your new life hasn't begun is brutally simple. You're still feeding the old one. You say you want change, discipline, wealth, strength, peace, and purpose. Yet when the door to the new opens, you carry the old self on your back. The habits, the excuses, the language, the rhythms. You crave new results while clinging to old rituals. Every time you hit snooze, scroll instead of study, avoid instead of confront, complain instead of act, you breathe life into the old self. You revive him. And with every act of obedience to the past, the new self you're trying to build weakens. The man who declares, "I want discipline," but still entertains laziness, speaks a divided truth. And in division, there is no freedom, only delay. Change isn't a statement or a fleeting feeling. It's not a midnight journal entry after a motivational video. Change is a funeral, the burial of the old self. It's cutting ties with weakness. The only way forward is to starve what you no longer want to be. But understand this, the old identity won't vanish quietly. It resists. It bargains. It clings. Because familiarity feels safe. The old you knows your fears. He speaks in excuses that once felt reasonable, but now they're chains. He tells you, you've had a long day. Start tomorrow. One more time won't hurt. He whispers like a friend, but he isn't one. He's the anchor tied to your ankle, disguised as your own comfort. Comfort is a liar. Its only job is to keep you still. It doesn't care about your goals or your destiny. It only wants your loyalty, trading you peace for stagnation. It tells you it's harmless while slowly killing your future, keeping you trapped in cycles that feel safe but are deadly to your growth. So how do you break free? You stop showing up for the past. You stop performing the old rituals. You stop giving time, energy, and attention to the version of you that failed. When temptation calls you back to who you were, you respond as the man you're becoming. You make choices not based on where you've been, but on where you're going. You stop moving like him. You stop speaking like him. You stop thinking like him. You act as if the new you already exists, because identity is born in action. The mind catches up to movement. Walk like the disciplined man, the strong man, the focused man, and soon, that's who you are. Picture this. You say you're building a new house. You tell everyone the old one no longer serves you. You even hang a sign that says, "New life under construction." But every night, you sneak back to the old place. You light the fire, pay the rent, sleep in the same bed, and repeat the same rituals. Then you wonder why the new house still feels like a dream instead of a home. It's because you haven't left. You haven't cut the cord. Progress demands disloyalty to your past. You cannot hold the old while reaching for the new. One must die so the other can live. And that death isn't easy. It requires clarity and the courage to say, "That's not me anymore," and mean it. Not in thought, but in behavior. So ask yourself tonight, are you still feeding the version of you that failed? Are you still giving him meals through procrastination, complaints, comfort, and inconsistency? Or are you starving him so the new you can thrive? Transformation begins the moment you refuse to entertain the old pattern. It happens when you say, "He doesn't live here anymore." When you stop speaking the language of defeat, when you walk past the old door without even knocking. The new you isn't waiting for you to be ready. He's waiting for you to finally walk away from the version of yourself that pretends to want change while secretly protecting the comfort of failure. Let the old self starve. Let him fade. Let the man you've always known you could be take the stage. Not someday now. Focus is not a trait. It's not a gift reserved for monks or masterminds. It isn't in your DNA, your bloodline, or something handed out by luck. Focus is trained. It is built in the furnace of choice, repetition, and refusal. And like all training, it begins with elimination. Before sharpening your focus, you must cut away the noise dulling it. Most people don't live in chaos because they lack intelligence. They live in chaos because they've never learned to clear the space around their attention. Their minds are overfed but undisciplined. They start one task, then chase a notification. They begin a project, then leap to a new idea. They look busy. They feel overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, nothing meaningful gets finished. They don't run out of time. They run out of clarity. The man who wins, who builds, leads, and rises, isn't the one juggling the most. He's the one who finishes what matters. He doesn't live by stimulation. He lives by completion. He doesn't try to do everything. He commits to what counts. Once committed, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't wander or run when things get hard. He digs in. He guards his time and attention like treasure because he knows one truth. Where your focus goes, your life follows. Focus isn't about force, it's about respect. Respect for your own potential. Respect for the limited time you have on this earth. When you treat time as if it's infinite, you waste it. When you treat attention like a toy, the world plays with it. But when you begin to see focus as a sacred discipline, you stop letting distractions control your life. So how do you build it? By creating real boundaries. Not just ideas, not vague intentions, but walls. You carve out time for deep work and protect it as if your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. You remove distractions, not by wishing, but by force. You shut the door and tell your mind, This is where I'm needed, and here I stay. And when your attention tries to wander, you don't negotiate. You command it back, again and again, until it learns that you are the master, not the servant. Picture a blacksmith forging a blade. He doesn't step away from the fire every few minutes to check the wind. He doesn't pause his hammer for every knock at the door. He stands firm. He watches the steel. He hammers with intensity, with rhythm, with full presence. That's how a blade is forged, and that's how focus is built. You must treat your tasks with the same respect. Don't just start them, finish them. Don't just touch them, work through them. Stay in the fire. When you feel the urge to check something else, shift to another task, or take a quick break, recognize it for what it is, an escape disguised as productivity. Don't chase stimulation, chase completion. That's what separates motion from progress. That's what creates momentum. Focus isn't a mood or a passing feeling. It's a decision. And it's a decision you must make again and again, every hour, every day, until it becomes your nature. You must become the man who finishes what he starts, who doesn't break his own promises just because something easier appears. The man who's trusted to lead, to build, to win, is the one who has trained his focus into a blade sharp enough to cut through distraction. So take an honest look at your days. Are you finishing what you begin, or letting your attention scatter like leaves in the wind? Are you acting with intent, or reacting from habit? Are you in control, or being controlled? Focus isn't found, it's forged. It's not something you stumble upon. It's something you become through deliberate action, ruthless elimination, and fierce commitment to your mission. Once focus becomes your discipline, everything shifts. Your work sharpens. Your confidence grows. Your days become clearer, simpler, more powerful. You stop spinning and start building. And remember this, distraction is weakness in disguise. Every time you give in to distraction, you choose to stay ordinary. But every time you resist, every time you stay in the fire, you shape yourself into someone unshakable. Make focus your discipline, and the world will respect your work. Because the world doesn't follow the scattered, it follows the steady. Be the one who stays. Consistency is the most valuable currency. Anyone can be great for a day. Anyone can rise once, shine once, or give the world a glimpse of potential once. But the men who build legacies, who live with meaning, who command presence, those men are not defined by bursts of brilliance. They are defined by what they do consistently, especially when no one is watching. The spotlight may come and go, flaws may fade, but the man who shows up day after day, without excuse, becomes unstoppable. We live in a world addicted to drama, flashy beginnings, viral moments, and instant wins. Yet real transformation is not forged in explosions. It's built in the quiet, ordinary days, stacked with purpose. You don't earn power by showing up once. You earn it by showing up regardless, when you're tired, when it's boring, when the feeling is gone, and all that remains is the inner voice that says, do it anyway. That's consistency. That's strength. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum is everything. It's the unseen force that turns effort into rhythm. Consistency rewires the mind. Every time you show up, you send yourself a message. This is who I am now. It removes the debate. It silences the question, should I? Because the answer is already decided. You show up. Yet this is where most people fall into the trap. They confuse consistency with motivation. They wait for the right mood, the spark of inspiration, the emotional push to begin. They say, I just don't feel it today, and so they do nothing. But consistency isn't about feeling, it's about commitment. Motivation is a spark. It comes and goes. It's useful, but unreliable. It's emotional weather, sunny one day, stormy the next, always shifting. Consistency, though, is the flame that stays lit, even in the rain. Men who understand this change everything. They stop treating discipline as a mood and start treating it as identity. Not a choice, but a command. Not a decision, but a standard. They don't need perfect conditions. They only need to begin. And how do you begin? You lower the threshold. Stop aiming for perfection, aim for presence. You don't need to write 10 pages today, write 1. You don't need a 2-hour workout, train for 20 minutes. But whatever you do, don't skip. Skipping sends a dangerous message. My emotions are stronger than my commitment. It says you only act when you feel like it. And once that becomes a habit, you're chained to your moods forever. Picture a mason standing before an empty field. No cameras, no audience, just bricks, mortar, and his hands. He lays one brick, then another. Day after day, he returns. Some days it rains, some days he's sore, some days he's exhausted, but he never skips. Slowly, quietly, a wall rises. And one day, without applause, a fortress stands. Meanwhile, others sprint for a week, build half a wall, then abandon it, only to start again, never creating anything that lasts. But the mason? He just kept laying bricks. That is consistency. And yes, consistency may seem boring. Consistency is unglamorous. It doesn't get applause or likes, but it builds everything. It's the only way to achieve real mastery. The only way to outlast obstacles, silence critics, and crush excuses. Because in the end, talent fades, motivation fades, even energy fades. But consistency endures. So the real question isn't how talented are you, or how inspired do you feel? The question is brutally simple. Did you show up today? Did you honor the work in silence? Did you keep the promise you made to yourself, even when no one would know if you skipped? That's where the real self is built, in the small, invisible acts of consistency. It's the brick laid on the day when laying it felt pointless. The sentence written when no spark of genius appeared. The steps taken when your body was heavy and your mind begged for rest. Show up. Not once, not twice, always. Because the man who shows up every day, no matter how he feels, becomes the man who can do anything. That's how greatness is built. Quietly, repeatedly, unshakably, one brick at a time. Your body itself reflects your discipline. It's not just a vessel, it's a mirror of who you are. It reveals your choices, your energy, your values. It tells the truth about your routines when your words do not. A man cannot expect to carry a sharp, disciplined mind in a body that is tired, neglected, and weak. A sluggish body breeds a sluggish will. A tired frame cannot support the weight of a powerful vision. You may try to separate your physical state from your mental and spiritual strength, but that split is a lie. The body and mind are not rivals. They are allies. What you do to one always impacts the other. Look closely at the lives of strong, focused men, not only athletes, but leaders, builders, creators. Their mental resilience is reinforced by their physical readiness. When you train your body, you do far more than shape the outside. Every push, every rep, every drop of sweat sculpts more than muscle. It forges the man. Each time you resist the urge to quit, to sleep in, to skip the hard work, you grow stronger in places no mirror can reveal. You build command over yourself. You prove that your will is greater than your weakness. And that command doesn't end in the gym. It carries into every part of life. You approach work with more drive. You speak with more clarity. You sit taller, breathe deeper, walk with greater presence. You stop tolerating laziness, not only in others, but in yourself. In a world where most surrender to comfort, discipline becomes your edge. Yet so many postpone. They say, I'll begin when life settles down. I'm not the athletic type. I don't have time. But discipline doesn't come from the perfect body. It comes from moving the body you already have. It doesn't start with biology. It starts with motion. Your body is moldable. Your energy is trainable. And your will is sharpened one rep, one step, one breath at a time. You don't need an extreme routine. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. But you must begin. Rise early. Before the world demands your energy, give it to yourself. Move your body. Stretch it. Challenge it. Breathe deeply. Feel your strength, even if it's not yet where you want it to be. Because when the blood moves, the mind follows. You become clearer, more grounded, more alive. You remember that you're not just a thinker or a dreamer. You are a builder. And the first thing you must build is yourself. Train. Not to impress others, but to express who you truly are. You are not here to shrink, to hide, or to grow soft. You are here to carry a mission. And for that, you need a body capable of bearing weight. Not just physical weight, but the emotional, mental, and spiritual burden that comes with responsibility, leadership, and legacy. Picture a warrior preparing for battle, a man on horseback about to ride into danger. Would he neglect his steed? Let it grow weak, slow, and undisciplined? Of course not. He sharpens it, trains it, feeds it with care, and moves it with purpose. He does not see the horse as separate from the fight. It is the fight. It is what carries him into the storm. Your body is that steed, and your future will demand everything from you. Will your body be ready to carry it? This is not about appearance. It's not about six-pack abs or running marathons. It's about respect. Respect for the vessel that carries your mind, your mission, and your legacy. When you begin to honor your body, not worship it, but respect it, it transforms how you operate. You stop eating like a man with no vision. You stop sleeping like a man who doesn't care. You stop dragging yourself through life like a worn-out engine. Instead, you start living like a man who is ready. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly honored your body? Not as decoration, but as a tool for greatness. When did you last challenge it, strengthen it, stretch it, move it as if it were made for more than sitting, scrolling, and surviving? You don't need to be perfect, but you must be present. Show up in your own body. Liven it. Breathe into it. Train it. Not because you are broken, but because you are becoming. Never let your body become an afterthought. Don't allow it to grow weak while your dreams grow sharper. In the end, every vision you hold, every challenge you face, every success you build must be carried out through your body. Make it strong. Make it steady. Make it ready. Discipline doesn't begin in the clouds. It begins in the flesh. From there, it flows into your future. Energy is not something you stumble upon. It isn't waiting for perfect conditions or sudden bursts of motivation. Energy is managed, not found. It isn't a gift given to the lucky or the naturally driven. It is a force that must be channeled, commanded, and directed. The most successful men aren't those who feel powerful all the time. They are the ones who decide where their power goes, knowing energy, like time, must be invested with intention. The man who fails to control his energy will always be controlled by the world around him. Just look at most people. Watch how they move through a day. You'll see something tragic. They leak energy. Not in dramatic bursts, but in small, constant drips until they are empty. They waste it on petty annoyances, on decisions that don't matter. They argue over things that have no impact on their vision. They answer every distraction, react to every notification, engage in every minor frustration as if it deserves their full attention. And by the time they finally turn back to what truly matters, if they return at all, their energy is already gone. They pour their best into things that never deserved it, then try to build their future on the scraps. That's why so many men reach their goals already exhausted. It's not that the work is too hard. It's that their energy was given away to everything except the work. You don't truly run out of energy. You misplace it. And you'll never touch greatness if your energy is scattered before it ever meets your mission. But imagine something different. Imagine guarding your energy like treasure. When you rise in the morning and claim your day with authority, you decide, this is where my energy goes today. No more, no less. You stop wasting it on anything that doesn't serve your growth. Suddenly, fatigue no longer rules you. You don't drag yourself through the day drained or confused. You're no longer at the mercy of interruptions or moods, because now you are in command. And how do you take that command? By eliminating what drains you. That means cutting out needless decisions. What to wear, what to eat, when to start. You simplify. You standardize. You automate what doesn't need creativity, so your mind is free for what does. You clear away the clutter, mental, physical, emotional, that eats at your strength. You say no to chaos and yes to clarity. You set one clear focus for each day. Not 10, not 5, 1. The one thing that deserves your full presence. You choose where your energy goes, because not everything deserves it. Not everyone gets a response. Not every irritation gets your reaction. And the more you act from intention, the less you act from impulse. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about shaping a life that reflects purpose. Because purpose is not just having a goal. It's the power to protect the pursuit of that goal. And energy is the fuel for that pursuit. Picture a farmer holding a handful of seeds, limited in number, valuable in purpose. If he scatters his seeds carelessly across rocks and weeds, he may feel busy, even productive. But when harvest comes, there's little to show. His effort was real, yet his focus was wasted. But if he chooses rich soil, plants with precision, and waters with consistency, his harvest multiplies. His reward grows. Your energy is no different. You only have so much. If you spend it on irritations, small distractions, and unworthy commitments, you're scattering it on barren ground. But if you guard it, assign it, and plant it where it can grow, the return is extraordinary. So pause and reflect. Where did your energy go yesterday? Did you give your best hours to your deepest purpose, or to trivial demands? Did you invest it in your mission, or let the world pull it apart? And now, ask yourself, where will it go today? Not in theory, but in action. Will you spend the morning reacting, or will you claim the first hours for yourself? Will you command your energy like a man who knows his future depends on it? Energy is your power, your currency, and the way you spend it will write the story of your life. Waste it, and you'll live tired. Focus it, and you'll live ready. So decide, assign, protect, and direct your energy like a man who knows it is limited and chooses to spend it where it matters most. Because you don't run out of power by working hard. You run out by living scattered. And the man who learns to master his energy doesn't just survive. He rises. Each day, he rebuilds his self-image through action. Because you will never rise higher than the picture you hold of yourself. That silent portrait in your mind, who you believe you are, shapes everything. Your choices, your reactions, your habits. It dictates how much effort you give, how long you stay in the fight, how you handle success, and how you face setbacks. You may carry brilliant plans, rare talents, and enormous goals. But if your inner voice whispers, "I'm not the type," you will find a way to fall short. Not because you chose failure, but because the subconscious always obeys what it believes to be true, even when that belief is a lie. This is why so many men sabotage themselves. They blame luck, willpower, or motivation, when in reality their actions are being pulled back to match an old image. You can only outwork your self-concept for so long before it drags you back. The man who sees himself as weak will eventually prove it, even after moments of strength. The one who calls himself undisciplined may start routines, but he'll quit just when it matters most. Not from lack of desire, but because he believes he has no choice. But here's the secret, the truth that changes everything. Your self-image is not fixed. It can be rebuilt. The man in the mirror is not finished. He is clay, and you already hold the tools to reshape him. You don't rebuild yourself with affirmations alone. Words help, yes, but they cannot stand on their own. Real change comes through action. Every time you act with strength, discipline, clarity, or integrity, you send a message deep into your mind. This is who I am now. With each action, that inner image begins to shift. Slowly at first, almost unnoticed, the picture starts to blur and reshape. And then one day, you don't just act disciplined. You are disciplined. You don't just mimic the habits of strong men. You see yourself as one. So why do so many fail to change? Because they try to think their way out of an identity that was built through years of behavior. You cannot overthink a pattern that was created by repeated action. You can't lecture yourself out of doubt. You must move first, then belief will follow. The mind follows the body, not the other way around. So when that inner voice whispers, "You're not that man," that is the very moment you must act. Not to pretend, but to become. Speak as he would speak. Move as he would move. Choose as he would choose. At first, it may feel false, forced, even uncomfortable. Your old image will resist. But if you persist, if you keep showing up, something powerful happens. The subconscious begins to accept the new evidence, and slowly, the image evolves. And once the image begins to shift, your behavior no longer feels forced. It feels natural, like truth. Start small. You don't need a revolution, just a single kept promise. One clear, specific commitment to yourself today. Maybe it's waking up on time, training when you said you would, or writing just one paragraph. The action itself doesn't matter as much as the message it sends. I do what I say. And each time you keep that promise, it becomes a brick in the foundation of your new identity. Do it especially when it's hard. That's when the reconstruction takes root. When the old voice insists, skip it, and you show up anyway, something shifts. When fatigue says, not today, and you act regardless, that's when the change begins. Not in comfort, but in contradiction. Each time you choose differently from the man you used to be, you chip away at his control. You weaken his grip. You break his frame. And in the process, you start shaping a new one. Picture a sculptor before a massive block of stone. To most, it looks solid and unformed. But the sculptor sees through it. He believes there's something greater hidden inside. With every strike of the chisel, every chip and cut, he declares, there is more here. He doesn't stop when progress seems slow or when the shape isn't yet clear. He keeps going, knowing that with enough pressure and patience, the vision within the stone will emerge. That's how you must approach your old self. Because he is the stone. You are the sculptor. Each action you take is a chisel. Every time you show up, choose discipline, and say no to the old pattern while saying yes to the new one. You're shaping the man you were meant to be. And one day, that man appears. Not because you wished for him, but because you built him. Stop waiting to feel like him. Act like him. Let the image follow the action. Let belief follow behavior. Start small. Start today. Ask yourself with honesty and courage. What does the man I want to become do every day? What are his rituals? How does he handle pressure? What does he do when no one is watching? What does he prioritize? Now go do that. Not someday, but now. Every action is a vote, and the man you become is the one you vote for most often. Make your vote count. The image will follow, and when it does, you'll never be the same. Protect your mind like a fortress. It's your kingdom, the seat of your power, the origin of every word you speak, every step you take, every life you shape, including your own. Like any kingdom, it must be guarded. What enters it stays. What stays builds. And what builds eventually rules. If you don't stand guard at the gate, the world will walk in uninvited, leaving its dust, its poison, its confusion scattered through the halls of your mind. And soon, you'll wake up in a castle that no longer feels like home. Most men live unaware of this silent invasion. They wonder why they feel drained, unmotivated, or unsettled. Why they begin the day with hope, yet end it with heaviness. Why their confidence fades without warning. The answer is simple. They let anything in. They allow opinions, fears, doubts, and distractions to march freely into their kingdom, unchecked. They confuse entertainment with nourishment. They absorb every joke, every headline, every mindless scroll. Then they wonder why their own thoughts feel foreign. Their mind becomes a noisy marketplace, open to all but owned by none. But the powerful man is different. He does not leave his gates unguarded. He knows the value of his mind. He understands it is not neutral ground, but a battlefield. And if he isn't standing guard, someone else will occupy the space. A powerful man chooses carefully. He questions, he reflects. His mind is not a dumping ground. It is a fortress. Why does this matter? Because every thought you entertain writes a line in your future. The mind doesn't distinguish between a joke and a judgment, sarcasm and truth, self-deprecation and self-destruction. It absorbs, repeats, and eventually believes. And what it believes, it begins to build. You've seen it happen. A man jokes that he isn't smart enough. At first, it's just a line tossed into conversation. But then he says it again, and again. Soon, it becomes a filter. He hesitates when he should speak. He withdraws when he should lead. He doesn't even realize that the source of his hesitation isn't reality at all. It's the quiet repetition of unguarded thoughts. This is how the mind works. It doesn't discriminate. It simply mirrors what you feed it. And if you don't take charge of that feeding, the world will do it for you. So how do you guard your mind? You become selective. You treat your thoughts with the same discernment a king shows to those requesting an audience. You ask, who sent you? What do you want? Do you deserve to stay? You choose your conversations wisely. You become aware of the words you allow to land, and you stop participating in gossip. Not just out of morality, but out of strategy. Gossip weakens the mind. It trains you to focus on what doesn't matter, draining energy from your purpose and trading it for petty analysis of others. You avoid trivial talk, small minds, and loud opinions with no wisdom behind them. You become ruthless with your input, not from fear of the world, but from valuing your clarity. You read what lifts you. You listen to what sharpens you. You place your mind in front of teachers, thinkers, warriors, and sages, not clowns, cowards, or critics. And most importantly, you spend time in silence, not as an escape, but as a strategy. Silence is where the mind becomes visible. In silence, you learn the sound of your own thoughts. You see the patterns. You recognize the invaders. You become aware of the beliefs you've never questioned, the ones shaping your life without your permission. The world is loud and relentless. If you don't carve out moments of quiet, your mind will never truly be your own. You'll live only in reaction. But when you make silence a daily practice, not once a year or once a month, you begin to reclaim your thoughts. You take back the throne. Picture a castle gate where a single soldier stands guard day and night. He inspects every traveler, asks every purpose, checks every name. No one passes without the gatekeeper's approval. That is how you must protect your thoughts, with vigilance, strength, and unwavering standards. Nothing enters unless it sharpens you, strengthens you, and belongs in the mind of the man you are becoming. So ask yourself, who or what have you allowed to shape your thoughts this week? Who did you listen to? What did you absorb without question? What beliefs slipped past your guard? Did you stand watch, or did you fall asleep at your post? This matters more than you realize, because your mind is not just where you think, it's where you build. It is the workshop of your actions, the framework that determines how you show up in every room. If your mind is sharp, your life becomes focused. If your mind is weak, your life becomes scattered. And no amount of hustle can repair a mind that has already been hijacked. Your mind is your most powerful weapon, and the world knows it. That's why it fights so hard for your attention, why it fills your feed with fear, why it drowns you in noise. Because a distracted man is easy to control, but a man who guards his mind, he becomes dangerous, unpredictable, free. So build the fortress, inspect the gates, choose your inputs wisely. Remember, what enters stays. What stays builds, and what builds becomes you. Don't let the world write your script. Write it yourself, with clarity and conviction, like a king defending his kingdom. The future you want already exists within reach. It hides in the habits you resist. You say you want more clarity, more discipline, more success. You speak it with hunger, with conviction. But truth doesn't live in your words, it lives in your routine. When your routine contradicts your desires become nothing more than delusion. You talk about big dreams, yet follow small impulses. You preach purpose, yet begin your mornings with delay. You crave transformation, but refuse to release comfort. And that quiet contradiction is what slowly destroys your progress. A man's future is not stumbled upon like buried treasure. It is built, brick by brick, day after day, through repetition, through structure, through discipline when it feels dull, and through effort when it feels inconvenient. It is built not on the easy days, but on the hard ones. The future is not hiding from you. It is waiting for you to build it. It's right there in plain sight, outlined in the habits you either choose or avoid. Yet most men remain still, hoping life will somehow bend to their desire. They wait for clarity before moving. They wait for discipline to feel easy. They wait for the right time to begin. But time itself is the lie. Time whispers, you have more, you can change tomorrow. And so they live the same day, the same week, the same life, expecting to one day wake up different. But nothing shifts until the routine shifts. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your patterns. And if those patterns are ruled by comfort, delay, and distraction, then your potential stays locked and used and unlived. How can you claim freedom while remaining loyal to your chains? You can't speak of greatness while protecting the habits that keep you mediocre. So how do you break free? How do you escape the loop that spins you back into your old self? You begin by linking vision to discipline. You stop chasing inspiration and start demanding obedience from yourself. You stop hoping your mind will cooperate and start commanding it. You build a day so intentional, so aligned, so powerful, it cannot be ignored. And you begin not by overhauling your entire life, but by aligning your smallest habit with your highest aim. That's where most men go wrong. They wait for a grand plan, a dramatic shift, when the real change begins with one deliberate act. Transformation isn't built on drama, it's built on repetition. On that single habit done daily, the one that feels too small to matter. At first, it may be sloppy, imperfect, but if you keep showing up, relentlessly, it becomes powerful. Because every repetition is a vote, and the man you become is the one you vote for most often. Picture a man who says he wants to cross the ocean. He speaks of the horizon, describes the ships he'll build, the lands he'll see. He studies the currents and dreams of the voyage. But every day, he turns and walks deeper into the woods. His words may sound sincere, but his movement tells the truth, and it leads nowhere. Your goals demand more than hope. They require new behavior, sacrifice, and trade-offs. You must let go of ease. You must say no to the comforts that keep you small. At times, you'll be misunderstood, unrecognized, even uncelebrated. Because greatness isn't loud, it's quiet. It's built in the unseen hours, when no one is watching. You must decide that your highest aim is worth the discomfort of discipline, that your long-term identity matters more than short-term impulses. that showing up matters more than being in the mood. You are not here to wait. You are here to build. So ask yourself with brutal honesty, what one habit, practiced daily for a year, would change everything? You already know what it is. Maybe it's waking early. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's training. Whatever it is, it's been whispering to you all along. Now ask yourself the second question. Why haven't you begun? Don't hide behind excuses. Don't talk about time, energy, or readiness. The real answer is simple. You haven't started because it's easier not to. Because the old version of you still has influence. Because you're addicted to what feels familiar. Changing a habit means reshaping an identity, and that truth scares you more than you want to admit. But let this be the moment you stop negotiating with weakness. Let this be the moment you understand that the future isn't waiting somewhere out there. It's being built right now in the choices you make today. Your life won't transform because of a grand idea. It will change because you woke up and did the thing you didn't want to do. And then you repeated it until it stopped being a task and became part of who you are. Your future is not written by your dreams, but by your discipline. And discipline is not measured by what you say, but by what you consistently do. So build the day, build the habit. Let the habit shape the man. Every excuse is a nail in the coffin of your potential. Every act of discipline is a brick in the foundation of your future. Lay the brick today, then again tomorrow, until your life rises one aligned day at a time. Change your habits, and you change your life. That's where everything you've ever wanted begins. Not in some distant future, not in luck or chance, but in you. In the smallest actions you take each day. In your habits. You can dream. You can visualize, you can write down goals and repeat affirmations until your voice fades. But nothing changes until you act. Unless your actions align with the future you claim to want, nothing will change. The truth is simple. Your habits are the bricks of your destiny. They're not optional, not decorative. They are structural. If your life feels weak, if it crumbles under pressure, it's because the foundation, your habits, was never built to support the weight of the life you desire. You are not trapped by fate, or by your upbringing, or by circumstances. You are shaped, moment by moment, by the patterns you repeat without even noticing. Wake up late. Complain before creating. Scroll before stretching. And don't be surprised when your days feel hollow, your energy drained, and your purpose unclear. That's the price of those habits. But change even one of them. Truly change it. And you start to move the needle of your life. A man doesn't grow strong by lifting a mountain. He grows strong by lifting small weights, again and again. Discipline isn't forged in a burst of inspiration. It's formed in quiet, relentless repetition. And life doesn't shift because of one breakthrough. It's shaped by what you repeat when no one is watching. Change doesn't arrive on its own. It doesn't care about your wishes. It isn't moved by hope. Change must be commanded, through decisions, backed by action. That's the part no one wants to hear. Because it's not glamorous. It doesn't earn applause. It shows up in early mornings, quiet nights, and daily commitments that feel small, boring, even thankless. But those small acts are what forge a new identity. And when your identity shifts, so does your destiny. The world doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. Think like a victim, and you'll invite problems. If you act like a leader, you begin to command influence. When you discipline your mind, your results will eventually mirror that order. But it all starts with one critical question. Who am I becoming with the habits I practice today? Sit with that, not as a passing thought, but as a life-altering reflection. Because you cannot build a future you aren't preparing for. It's impossible. A man who seeks freedom but lives in addiction only tightens his chains. A woman who longs for confidence but rehearses self-doubt only deepens her insecurity. Your habits are rehearsals, training your mind and body for the life they will expect. So be honest, what are you rehearsing? You don't need more information or more motivation. What you need is commitment. You must stop entertaining the fantasy of change without sacrifice. You must declare war on your distractions and silence the debate about things you already know must be done. Because the more you negotiate with weakness, the stronger it becomes. A new habit doesn't require applause, it requires a decision. A firm choice that says, this is who I am now, and I will not compromise. Not for comfort, not for convenience, not for company. One step each morning. One choice aligned with your future. One routine that supports your mission instead of sabotaging it. Over time, the small things add up. They become a force, like drops of water wearing down stone that once seemed unbreakable. And then, without fanfare, your life begins to shift. Think of a sculptor chipping away at marble. At first, it looks like nothing, maybe even madness. But slowly, with patience and pressure, something emerges. Something that wasn't visible before, yet was always possible. Your habits are the chisel. Your life is the marble, and every choice you make either shapes your vision or buries it deeper in stone. You must be intentional. You must become the craftsman of your days. Stop waking up hoping to feel motivated. You won't. That's not how greatness is built. Greatness rests on clarity. And clarity begins when you ask yourself daily, what would the man I want to become do right now? Then do that, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. This is how identity is formed. Not through sudden revelation, but through repetition. You don't become trustworthy by accident. You become trustworthy by keeping promises, even to yourself. You don't gain confidence from praise. You build it by earning your own respect through consistent action. Day by day, decision by decision, you construct the version of yourself capable of carrying your dream. And once you become that person, everything begins to change. You won't need to chase people. They'll start noticing you. You won't have to beg for opportunities. They'll recognize your presence. Not because you shouted it, but because you lived it. You proved it by doing what others were too inconsistent to finish. And that is what sets you apart. Stop waiting for a sign. This is the sign. Deep down, you already know what's not working. You already know what must change. The question isn't what to do. It's whether you'll begin. Not tomorrow. Not next Monday. But now, in this very moment. Because your future isn't waiting patiently. It's being shaped right here by your current behavior. And if that truth doesn't ignite a fire in you, then perhaps you're not hungry enough yet. But when it does, you'll see the reality. The smallest act done with discipline is greater than the grandest dream delayed by doubt. So let me ask you one final question. If you knew beyond doubt that changing your habits would change your life, what excuse would you still cling to? Would you say you're tired? Then know this. Doing nothing drains you more than progress ever will. Would you claim you're unsure? Clarity doesn't come first. It comes from action. Would you say you're waiting for the right time? Then remember, time won't wait for you. It moves regardless. The real question isn't if life will move. It's whether you'll move with it, consciously, courageously, and consistently. Your habits are not small. They are everything. They are the whispers of your future asking, will you rise or will you repeat? So here it is. No more waiting. No more postponing. No more bargaining with weakness. The time is now. The power is in your hands. Your life won't change by chance, but by choice. And the choices you make each day are the ones writing your future. Begin now. Create before you consume. Because a man with ambition must practice sacred discipline. Build before you absorb, before the world has the chance to invade your thoughts. Before the messages, the headlines, and the endless scrolling noise of 1,000 voices, you must create. Not because it's trendy, not because someone told you to journal, but because creation is how you plant your own flag in the soil of the day. You begin with your voice, your mind, your intention. That is how you own your morning. If you don't, the world will own you. And then you wonder why you feel distracted, scattered, and reactive instead of focused and proactive. It's because the first voice you listened to wasn't your own. Let this be your wake-up call. Your first act each morning must be creation, not consumption. Write a sentence. Sketch an idea. Plan your priorities. Sit in reflection. Breathe into your vision. It doesn't have to be perfect or polished, but it must be yours. Because when a man starts his day by consuming, he becomes a carrier, not a commander. He walks around with borrowed thoughts, already behind, trying to catch up. No matter how much he does later, something always feels off. He's reactive, his edge dulled, his clarity clouded. Why? Because he skipped the sacred moment when his mind was still his own. Imagine a king who wakes and immediately invites strangers into his throne room. Before dressing, before thinking, before setting his direction. By the time he wants to speak, the noise has drowned him out. That's what most men do. They let the world in before they've even met themselves that day. But picture the opposite, a man rising with the sun. No talking, no outside voices, just silence. And then, a spark, a note jotted down, a plan set in motion, a thought formed in clarity, a decision made in silence. In that moment, The man declares something powerful: I lead my mind, it does not lead me. That is why the first 30 minutes of the day are sacred. They are not for reacting, not for absorbing. They are for initiating. You may meditate. You may journal. You may write your goals. You may begin building your business, or simply sharpen your thinking. But it must always be creation first, output before input. Think of a composer rising at dawn. No voices in the hallway, only fingers on the keys. In that stillness, music flows. Why? Because nothing else has filled the space. The room is empty of noise, and in that emptiness, truth enters. Or picture a philosopher before sunrise. He doesn't sit with books, but with his own questions. He reflects, he contemplates, he hones the tools of reason. Only afterward, once his mind is anchored, does he engage with the world, because he knows thoughts must be forged before they are tested. And what about you? Do you begin your days as a creator or a consumer? Do you start with discipline or surrender to the urgency of others? Most men are not weak because they lack ambition. They are weak because they've surrendered the start of their day. And when you lose the morning, it's almost impossible to reclaim your strength. That passivity follows you into your work, your interactions, your decisions. You feel foggy, scattered, off balance. And you can't repair it halfway through the day. You must own it from the beginning. So how do you start this habit? Guard the first 30 minutes like a warrior at the gate. No messages, no distractions, just you and your work. Train your mind to expect it, to crave it. Wake up with purpose, not to check, but to create. Once you build this rhythm, you'll feel the shift. Something powerful happens when you begin the day with your own voice. You become centered, clear, composed. The world may still speak, but it no longer drowns you out. You hear it only after you've already declared your direction. And that is how a man builds true momentum. Not from speed, not from hustle, but from clarity. Clarity earned in solitude through consistent creation. So let me ask you again, who begins your day? You or the world? If it's not you, then you've already lost something you may not even notice. But the good news is, it's never too late to take it back. Start tomorrow. Rise early. Sit with yourself before the noise begins. Create, think, plan, write, reflect, and watch what happens. Not just to your morning, but to your entire life. You'll walk with more confidence, decide with more certainty, and lead with more strength. Because when you create first, you command the day. But when you consume first, you surrender it. The choice is yours. Change doesn't arrive overnight, but it does arrive daily, through small habits that either build the future you desire or one you regret. So don't just leave here inspired. Leave decided. Decide to act. Decide to build. Decide to change. Because once your habits shift, your identity follows, and your life will never look the same. Start today. One habit, one decision, one step closer to the life you were meant to live. Wishing you health, happiness, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.